Morning, God is love. Hope everybody's enjoying their weekend. I have another pretty deep and emotional topic that I want to talk about with you this morning. And it's obviously a question that many of us have. It's in life, why do bad things happen to good people? You would think that, in the world we live in, or in a system that is just, that the worst things would happen to the worst people. But it's important to remember that all of this started with Adam and Eve's betrayal in the Garden of Eden. So there was a time that this world was strife-free, that this world was a utopia, that we had a direct relationship with God, and we fellowshiped directly with God in the Garden of Eden. And God only had one rule, that was to not eat the forbidden fruit. And Satan knew how to manipulate man's free will. And through that, Adam and Eve defied God, and in return, we were banned from the Garden of Eden, and it cursed the world and opened the world up to evil, sickness, disease, tragedy. So that's why those things exist. It's through our own doing, through our own free will. Now, you still might ask, well, God's in control of everything. Why does God allow bad things to happen? I agree that God is in control of everything. I firmly believe that. However, I do believe that everything evil comes from Satan. I don't think that's God's doing. And I strongly feel that the only reason God allows certain things to happen in our lives, even though they are from Satan, is because it'll ultimately serve a greater good and ultimately fulfill a purpose and a plan that a lot of times we don't see at the beginning. I truly believe that in my own life, and I truly believe that with others that I've seen across my journey. And I'll give you some examples of that. The first one is this guy I'm friends with. I knew him in my church. I got to know him and his son before all this stuff happened to my parents. He's a funeral home director, great man. He completely coordinated everything with my parents' services, their funeral ceremony, their burial, all that stuff. And he has done stuff like that for generations. He's helped a lot of people. But within the past couple years, he has literally been through hell. He was diagnosed with cancer. He's been in and out of treatment. And recently, at the end of last year, his son, who really isn't that old, I think he's in his mid-30s, he died from a drug overdose. And that's one thing you never want to do as a parent, is have to bury your child. I strongly believe that it should be the other way around, that children eventually are there for their parents as they get old, and eventually the circle of life continues. So you may ask, why did something like that happen to such a great guy? Well, I personally believe he's helped so many people over the years. I think that after all this started happening to him, he got to see just how many lives that he touched, how many people cared about him. I mean, the outpouring of love and compassion that I've seen from our church and from the community he lives in and on Facebook and stuff like that has literally been just mind-blowing. And him and his family have also started to become a voice for addiction and drug abuse and stuff like that. So even though I believe all that is from the devil, I believe that God was able to use that to ultimately allow my friend to see how much of an impact he's made, and also be a voice against drugs and against abuse. Another example I have is with my friend, who I like to call my little brother. He's only, I think he's 24 now, has a full life ahead of him, but he grew up in a rough background. When he was a teenager, he had ties to gangs. I think he was actually sent to juvie, and he had to overcome all that. When I first met him, he didn't have much going on, but he totally turned his life around. He got his GED. He got a good job. He started providing for his family. But recently he was shot multiple times and confined to a wheelchair. And I was told from him last night that he's got to do a serious operation where he's only got a 50-50 chance of living at 24. And that really shook me to the core, as it did him. But I look at who he was a year ago compared to who he is now. And he is literally a symbol of hope for everybody he's around. He currently stays in like a medical facility that kind of doubles as a apartment. And there's people there from all kinds of backgrounds that have all kinds of medical issues, both mental and physical. And I was talking to him last night, and he told me that, he decided he wanted to go outside and try to walk so he could give people hope. Because at first the doctor said he would never walk again, which he has been able to walk. And so he went outside, got out of his wheelchair, and started walking. And he said people literally came out of their rooms and just started clapping for him. And I've seen how he's become involved in the church in his own form of ministry, being a voice for God ever since he found Christ last Christmas. And I truly believe that as terrible as those experiences were in his life, that God ultimately used those experiences to allow him to grow into the wonderful man that he's becoming. And I truly believe that he's got a long life ahead of him, and he's going to impact so many people, it's ridiculous. And I think all that honestly probably wouldn't have happened if those terrible experiences didn't happen in his life. And then finally, I'm going to close with my own life. I've often wondered why that had to happen to my parents. And, a lot of people know me on Facebook. You can ask them what kind of person I was a few years ago compared to the kind of person I am now. I would say confidently that I likely would have never became the person I am now, to where I could be in a position to start a Christian group and try to be a positive influence instead of trying to divide people and cause tension. And then I look at how much of a wake my parents had in cracking down in street gangs in this area. I mean, what happened to my parents literally led to the largest gang crackdown in North Carolina state history. I often wonder why God chose my family, why it had to be us. But, it's times like that we have to have faith. If none of this ever would have happened, then all of those people would still be walking the street. And there's no telling how many more lives would have been taken and how many more kids they would have recruited into their evil army. So there really is a plan for everything. It's important to remember that all evil comes from Satan, comes from the devil, but God only allows it if it serves a greater purpose and allows us to turn around and help more people than we could possibly imagine, and I truly believe that. So for those of you who are going through hard times and don't understand why, just know that A, God wouldn't allow it if you couldn't overcome it, and B, there is a plan. It may not be revealed to you at that time, but I promise you when you look back, it'll all make sense, because it has for me and it has for my friends. Hang in there, have the faith, and know that I love you and I'm praying for you. God bless and have a great day.